What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome to my Week 4 UCL battle. I, of course, am coach of the Chicago Muse, and I'm going to start off by saying that I'm sorry this is a replay. I actually lost my live commentary for this match, and it's really a shame because there was a lot of emotion that went in this battle. This is by far the most difficult battle I've had. It was the most scary going into this battle. I'm sure you know that from my team building video, and if you haven't seen that, you should definitely see that because unlike the usual live commentary videos, you won't be able to get to see all of my moves as I do them. I'll go over them, of course, but it won't be the exact same experience. And I really put a lot of thought into each member that I brought here, and this was a great battle. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do enjoy this format more, let me know. I'll probably still live commentate anyways. But regardless, looking at the team preview, 4 Pokemon I expected. You know, his big threats: Mega Scizor, Hoopa Unbound, Azumarill, and Scarf Chandelure is like 110% what I expected him to bring. Outside of that, I definitely expected Galvantula, and of course, one of the Pokemon I dedicated an entire Pokemon to doesn't show up. I actually have my Lipard built so that it's like a 100% Galvantula counter. It can copycat and encore to set up Sticky Web. If he sets up Sticky Web, I can set up Sticky Web against him, and I can also prevent him from setting up Sticky Web against me, and I always end up living, and he always ends up dying. And the only problem is if he would Thunder Wave, and I put a lot of thought into it, so I was very disappointed when I didn't see Galvantula. But regardless, Whimsicott is a really annoying Pokemon. I was actually really hoping he didn't bring that because it can do so much damage with Stun Spore in particular. It is helpful to have Hitmonlee because I did intentionally make his ability Limber and I gave him Poison Jab to be a Whimsicott counter. But other than that, I kind of expected Credilli because in his, I think, Week 1 or 2 match, he did bring Stealth Rock, and that was because of Credilli, and also because of Storm Drain. It's really good against Suicune, which is one of my only counters to like his Mega Scizor. So I did expect him to bring that to an extent. But anyways, he's got some scary offensive mons. As far as the lead goes, though, I really want to be able to scout and get some switch priorities, so I think I'm going to lead off with my Choice Scarf Jirachi, which I know outspeeds every single thing on his team, and we'll get going. So he ends up leading off with his Scarf Chandelure, and so right away I'm thinking, okay, is this thing Scarf? Probably. I'm going to play like it's Scarf regardless. I considered putting Shadow Claw on my Jirachi, but it actually has Fire Punch, U-Turn, Iron Head, and Healing Wish. And so rather than Iron Head and play those games, because Shadow Ball or Fire Blast will just destroy Jirachi, I'm going to go for a U-Turn and switch in my Heatran, which threatens with Earth Power, potentially Scarf, and that way I could also get up my Rocks. And you know, Heatran, I have some special defense investment, so I can take that. So I U-Turn, it does minimal damage, but regardless, I go to my Heatran, and it takes 40%. This is a really offensive Chandelure, and after leftovers, I'll be able to live one more, but I won't be able to live the one after that. So I need to decide here, do I go for an Earth Power and KO this thing, or do I get up my Stealth Rock? And I knew going into this match, Stealth Rock were going to be super helpful. I made a whole bunch of calculations dependent on Pokemon after Stealth Rock damage. So thinking about the long term, you know, yes, this Scarf Chandelure is going to be really annoying, but rocks are definitely going to be the play. So I end up going for my Stealth Rock, and he goes for another Shadow Ball, and I'm pretty sure he's Scarf at this point. Modest Scarf, if I had to guess. And I want to hang on to my Heatran. Heatran is a huge asset for me as far as getting rid of Chandelure and being able to KO Scizor with Lava Plume. So I definitely want to save this Heatran, but I'm not sure what I want to sack because this Chandelure puts in work on anything on my team. I know Suicune takes 40 to 50% from a Shadow Ball, so it's potentially a 2-hit KO. I think it's like a 4.3% on Showdown's calculator to KO, so that's scary. And Jirachi can't take it. Hitmonlee can actually take a hit from Chandelure, and I could KO back with Knockoff, but I don't want to lose that thing that early because I need Hitmonlee, and Bullet Punch does 85 to 90%, I think, and I can live a Bullet Punch plus Stealth Rock, so I want to be able to keep that there. So what I end up thinking is I'm going to switch to my Lipard, and I have Focus Sash, so I'll live a Shadow Ball, and then I'll be able to copycat Shadow Ball after that, and that'll do a lot of damage. Other than that, and then I can bring in my Choice Scarf Jirachi again. So that's the play that I'm going to make. So I switch in my Lipard, but he actually switches out, and also the fact that he switches out first means he's faster than me, which means he's probably Scarf, and like I was pretty sure he's going to be Scarf regardless. And so he switches into Azumarill, which actually works out really well because my Lipard actually counters his Azumarill really well. I was deciding what to do. My Lipard has Charm, Encore, Copycat, and Dark Pulse, and I know he loves Belly Drum Azumarill. He loves Belly Drum Azumarill. And so if he's not Belly Drum, any attack or any other set will be severely crippled by Charm, which, you know, lowers his attack by 2 stages. And so I figured I can go for that. And if he goes for Belly Drum, I can Encore him into that and basically make it useless. So he ends up going for Belly Drum, for which I'm like super happy. And I know next turn I can Encore him into that. And this Belly Drum Azumarill has already used his Citrus Berry. He's going to be around 50% when he comes in next. So then I wonder, what is he going to do next? What is he going to switch in on this Liepard? And I figure I can actually just go to my Choice Scarf Hitmonlee on whatever he wants to bring in and potentially do some damage. So I end up switching into my Hitmonlee, and he brings in this Hoopa, and really important, I notice he has leftovers. So this is not a Choice Scarf Hoopa, this is not a Life Orb Hoopa, this is a defensive, or not necessarily physically defensive, but a bulky Hoopa. So that is very good to note, and because of that, I'm not sure if I can actually Oko. If this was a Life Orb Hoopa, I could Oko after rocks with close combat, but I don't think I can anymore. So I do need to switch out, and because he's bulky, I'm pretty sure my Suicune can take this on. So I switch into Suicune here, and I can start setting up Calm Minds, and I want to get a burn on this. He goes for Drain Punch. I don't know if this is physically or special or mix. Because he's bulky, he's probably mix, but regardless, I want to get a burn on this so I can get some damage, some passive damage over time, especially for a bulkier set, so that my Hitmonlee can KO it. And so for that reason, I go for Scald on the next turn, and he actually goes for Dark Pulse. I'm not going to get the burn, sadly, and Dark Pulse does 39%, so that's pretty scary. But I can go for Calm Mind the next turn safely, and I note that I'm faster than him, which is really helpful. It plays a huge part, but then he goes for Psyshock and gets a critical hit, which means I have to rest a turn earlier, and I can't afford to get off another Scald, which would do a lot more damage now that I've Calm Minded, and potentially get that burn. So that's really annoying, and in reality, the only way he's going to be able to beat me at this point, or be able to beat this Suicune with his Hoopa, is if he gets critical hits. Because I can continually Calm Mind. His Dark Pulse, especially after leftovers, is probably like a 5 or 6 hit KO, so he's going to have to go for Psyshock if he wants to do any damage to me. And so I go for another Scald. Luckily I get the Scald from Sleep Talk, and I get the burn, which is really helpful. But then I was thinking, okay, my luck is kind of on point because of the Scald burn, but then he gets a critical hit with Dark Pulse, and there isn't much I can really do. I can take one more Dark Pulse, I can take a Psyshock probably, I can definitely take a Drain Punch, but this Suicune still has 2 more turns of Sleep to burn before I can rest again, so it's pretty much dead. This Hoopa can take it on. So I do need to switch it out into something if I want to keep it alive, and I definitely want to keep it alive for both Azumarill, Mega Scizor, and Chandelure. So this is looking actually really problematic because Suicune was pretty pivotal to my team, and it's been taken down by hacks. The only other option I have at this point is thinking, okay, maybe I can Healing Wish it back to normal back to full with my Jirachi. So I have to bring something in on this, and in the end, I actually forget what I end up making play. I think I go into my Liepard. No, I go into Hitmonlee. Oh yeah, that's right. Because he's a bulky set and Hitmonlee actually has decent special defense, I can take a Dark Pulse if he decides to go for that, because that would be the safe play on his end. But if he went for Psyshock, my Hitmonlee would have been wrecked, and that would have been really bad. He ends up going into Credilli though, and I definitely threaten this thing with Hitmonlee. My close combat is an Oko after rocks, and I know he might want to stay in and get rocks. I also know that I could go for knockoff on this, but I also don't want to risk taking some damage and again putting myself in bullet punch range of Mega Scizor, which would be really bad. So I end up deciding I'm just going to go for the close combat here. It's a safe play. If he goes into Chandelure, I can actually just switch into my Heatran again, and I'm perfectly okay with that. So yeah, that's what I end up doing. I just go for the close combat, and if he switches into Chandelure, it's also a guaranteed Stealth Rock damage, which I don't mind, or which I love, because that's putting him in range of Scald, that puts him in range of, what is it, an unboosted return from Mega Altaria, and so I can go to my Liepard, same strategy as before. I can, take one hit with Sash and then hit back hard with my Shadow Ball via Copycat, and then switch in my Jirachi. So I switch into Liepard, he goes out into this Whimsicott, and of course the name is I Don't Watch Love Live. I was laughing. It was a nice little comic relief in the middle of this intense battle. But regardless, I don't know what kind of set this Whimsicott is, and I'm really hoping it's not the annoying Stun Spore, Leech Seed, Substitute sort of set. And the thing is, if he's running Moonblast, that would do a lot of damage, and I need this Liepard to stay alive so that I can KO Chandelure, potentially, as a backup. So, if I get, predicted well with my Hitmonlee can't take it out. So what do I want to switch into? Well, at this point, I kind of want to switch into my Jirachi here, knowing I can take a Moonblast really well, and I want to scout for what set he's running. And Jirachi doesn't really need its health to an extent. So I switch in Jirachi knowing I can Iron Head. He goes for Taunt, which lets me know that he's not a very offensive set. Obviously, he has leftovers, so he's kind of bulky prankster set. And I can safely go for Iron Head here. I'm debating whether or not I want to go for Fire Punch, because I do expect him to go into Scizor here. That easily is the easiest play for him to make. But I also don't want to overextend and then get crippled by this Whimsicott by going for Fire Punch and having to go for a 2-hit KO instead of Iron Head, which does a lot more damage to this Whimsicott. And I figure, forcing Scizor to switch in on Stealth Rock and take that damage plus a little bit of Iron Head damage is actually really good, because that puts him in regular Altaria's Fire Blast range. So yeah, I just go for the Iron Head here as he actually switches out into his Scizor, and I'm like perfectly okay with this so far. I kind of wish I went for the Fire Punch, which would have been wonderful. That actually would have had a good chance of KOing there. My Fire Punch does 66 to 70 something %, I think, and it has a 20% chance of burning him. So when he goes into the Scizor, I think he might SD, I think he might Roost, and I easily go into my Liepard here to prevent either of those from happening, because I can Encore him into whatever he goes for. So he goes for Roost, and I'm just going to go for the Encore. I was debating whether or not I wanted to make an aggressive play and double there, expecting him to switch, knowing that I could Encore him into Roost. However, the risk wasn't worth the reward. I needed to prevent this Scizor from setting up, because, once he got an SD up, he could do a lot of damage to my team. So, especially because Heatran is still low on HP. So yeah, I Encore, and now he is Encored into Roost. What do I think he's going to do at this point? I'm not 100% sure, but I can also go into my Hitmonlee. I can safely go for a Dark Pulse, though. At this point, anything on his team doesn't take a Dark Pulse super well, and any damage is appreciated, especially because Stealth Rock damage is building up. And so he switches into Whimsicott, which is, his switch into Liepard before, and Dark Pulse does a good amount of damage. But I also don't want to take a Moonblast again with this thing, so I'm going to switch back into Jirachi. Expecting that to happen, he actually goes for a Stun Spore, which is just exactly the worst thing could happen with this Whimsicott. I do not want to deal with this Stun Spore Whimsicott. That being said, I still know that my Hitmonlee is a check for this, and now my Choice Scarf Jirachi is super slow, super vulnerable, and can't really do much. And knowing that he can switch into Mega Scizor here, I'm actually going to try and predict that and go for the Fire Punch, because after Stealth Rock damage, Fire Punch would do a ton of damage, and that's really what I kind of need for momentum at this point. So I go for the Fire Punch, and he switches into Scizor, and I'm like, yes, we can finally get this thing, but I get paralyzed. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. First, these critical hits, Sleep Talk, I'm not getting a lot of Scalds, and now I'm paralyzed, and I don't get this Fire Punch off, but it's like, whatever, obviously it's part of the game. But now this Jirachi is kind of useless, and I don't want anything else to take damage, or I don't want to let him get away with Swords Dancing for free. So what I'm going to do here is just go for the Fire Punch again, and he goes for Knockoff, and that almost KOs me, and I get paralyzed again. So again, I'm literally just giving up my Jirachi for this, and at this point, I figure I can get a Fire Punch off and maybe burn him, but I also need to get Switch priority. I need to get my Heatran in for free without letting him try and predict that in Superpower, or to Swords Dance again on this Jirachi that isn't doing much to him. So I decide Healing Wish is the best play by far, because I absolutely need Heatran to counter this Scizor now. So luckily I get my Healing Wish off, and my Heatran comes in, and that scares this thing out. Thank goodness that could happen. And also, I was debating, do I go for the Earth Power, predicting Chandelure, or do I go for the Lava Plume, expecting him to stay in, or, switch into something like Whimsicott or his Hoopa. And I figure at the end of the day, if he predicts Lava Plume, he's going to go into a Chandelure to get the Flash Fire boost. It takes no damage from it. But then, I figured it's not going to matter if he gets the Flash Fire boost, because my ability is Flash Fire too, so he can't even go for Fire Blast against me. And so I can safely take one Shadow Ball and then KO it with Earth Power. And so that's what ends up happening. I'm perfectly okay with this. I'll take the 40% from the Shadow Ball and heal back up with leftovers. and I get a special defense drop, which is kind of annoying, but like it doesn't end up making a difference, which is nice. And so now, what does he have for this? He's got to bring in his Azumarill. And of course, this thing is scary. It could belly drum up again with 1%. That being said, I could KO him with Copycat any move with Liepard, so he's probably not going to belly drum. He's either going to Waterfall or Aqua Jet. He's going to Aqua Jet if he expects me to attack, and he's going to Waterfall if he predicts me to switch. And either way, I think I can sack my Suicune here, but I can also take it on if he goes for Aqua Jet. So I switch in my Suicune, and it takes the Aqua Jet like a champ, and it actually heals me, essentially, after leftovers. And I might have a chance of waking up. I might have a chance of actually salvaging this Suicune. I do want to get some Scalds. A Scald Burn would be so nice, but I end up using Rest again, not even getting a Calm Mind. And he knocks off my leftovers, which is a really good play on his part, because those were essential, a good 12, 18% that extended the duration, changed 3-hit KOs into 4-hit KOs that would allow me to rest. And at this point, he's got to determine whether or not he wants to go for Aqua Jet. I have like 8 or 9% health, and Aqua Jet did a little over 7% last time. So I think he's forced to go for Play Rough here. But my only play is to rest. So that's exactly what I do. If he tries to Aqua Jet here, it probably wouldn't have KO'd. Play Rough though, looking at it without my leftovers, depending on the rolls, could be a 3-hit KO. I need to get a Scald Burn though. I definitely need to get a Scald Burn. And so it's looking pretty grim. Play Rough plus Aqua Jet might KO me after this. That being said, I'm at 8%. He's got to make the decision between Aqua Jet or not. My play is 110% rest. I cannot switch in on this thing. So I do go for rest. He doesn't Aqua Jet. And because he goes for Play Rough this turn and he actually gets a bit of a high roll, Play Rough will probably 3-hit KO me. And if not, it'll probably put me in Aqua Jet range. So in order to keep Suicune alive, I 110% need to get Scald on my Sleep Talk and get a burn. So it's looking kind of grim, and it's pretty scared. But I get a Scald crit burn, which is incredibly helpful. On the next turn, Play Rough now doing 17%. I clearly live this. The only thing that's going to keep him in this game is a crit. Aqua Jet to get damage, expecting maybe a Scald. And finally, I get this last Sleep Talk off. I do get a Scald. I would have preferred a Calm Mind, but it's not going to make much of a difference. And now what does he bring in? He brings in this Cordilli, which of course makes sense because my only attacking move is Scald. I have to switch out, and I figure at this point, I can just bring in my Hitmonlee here and threaten this thing. Now that Chandelure is gone, I can pretty safely go for close combat. That being said, I do need to worry about Whimsicott, and I also calculated these things typically have Rock Slide, and I definitely take that like a champ. He just ends up setting up his Stealth Rock, which is fine. I'm perfectly okay with that. If necessary, I can Rapid Snow with Hitmonlee, except now I have to make a play. I have to determine if he's going to go to Whimsicott or not. I thought Close Combat was so obvious. It would do damage to Hoopa well. It would KO this thing. It would do so much damage to the Scizor. And Hoopa, or his Whimsicott resists it. He might want to try and paralyze it. So I 110% thought he was going to go into Whimsicott. And so I go for the Poison Jab, which sucks that he doesn't switch out. Because now this thing can take me on, even if I poison it. So yeah, now I have to switch out, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? He has Giga Drain, so he's going to be healing back a bunch of HP. He has Recover probably too, maybe Rock Slide, and at this point I figure, okay, I haven't used my Altaria yet. It might be able to take something on. It might be able to do some damage. It could probably roost up on this. I did calculations in Showdown. Rock Slide does around 40%, so after Rocks I can live and outspeed and then roost off this thing. Install it out there and potentially Dragon Dance up. So I am going to go out into my Altaria knowing that I need to keep this Hitmonlee alive to win the game. He goes for Toxic, predicting the switch, which is really good on his part. For that reason, I'm also not gonna Mega Evolve, especially because of Scizor, but also because Natural Cure will cure that Toxic when I switch out. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm just going to Roost up so that if he brings in his Mega Scizor, I'm guaranteed to live the Bullet Punch. So I think Bullet Punch does around 50 to 60%, but I think he's running a Bulk Gear set, but I wanted to make sure I could live that, and so that if I switch out, I can switch back in and have a decent amount of HP and potentially live a Bullet Punch as well too. So I go for the Roost, he brings in Mega Scizor, and we have a standoff between my potential Mega and his Mega. Now, if I Mega Evolve here, Bullet Punch 110% KOs me, and I'm so glad I invested 28 special attack EVs into this Altaria. so that my Unmega Evolved normal Altaria Fire Blast OHKOs after Stealth Rock damage. And so he's taken Stealth Rock damage a couple times, so I do know that Fire Blast will KO, and it's just gotta hit. It's just gotta hit. And so I'm really, really hoping this hits, because if this Fire Blast misses, I'm pretty sure that's GG. I can bring in my Heatran and try and play around with that some more, but it's going to be really difficult, and this would be a huge momentum gainer for me. So I end up going for the Fire Blast. He goes for Bullet Punch. It does 50%. I live, and I do hit. I do hit the Fire Blast, and I KO this Mega Scizor, which is such a relief. That means I can also play a bit more aggressively with my Hitmonlee. And now he switches in this Whimsicott. I don't really know what he's going for. He can pretty safely go for Moonblast here. I could hit him with a return if I stay in. Actually, he outspeeds me, so that wasn't an option. But I know he's got Stun Spore. He's not going to do that. He's got Taunt, and he's got Moonblast. I figure the only thing really I can go into at this point is my Heatran. And also, I don't really need my Heatran anymore now that Chandelure and Mega Scizor are gone. So the play is definitely going to my Heatran here. So I switch out, and Heatran at 52% is going to take like nothing from this Moonblast. Quadruple resisted. He does get a special attack drop, which does make a difference actually. Which is really annoying because at this point I can pretty safely go for Flash Cannon. It'll do neutral damage to Hoopa, super effective damage to Whimsicott, and super effective damage to Credilli. And it'll be, I don't really need the burns at this point. I already have a burn on Hoopa. So I'm just going to Flash Cannon here. He goes for Stun Spore, praying for hacks. And it just barely hangs on. If I didn't get that special attack drop, which is a 10% chance by the way, that would have KO'd. It would have been nice. I would have had an extra opportunity to get damage on his next Pokemon, but at this point it's looking good. I just need to KO this Whimsicott, and what I can actually do is go into my Hitmonlee, expecting him to switch out because he does need this thing to take on my Liepard, and he ends up going for Tailwind. Which is scary because now he outspeeds every single Pokemon on my team with his Hoopa, and that thing is a powerhouse. So I need to sack something, eat up some time, and at the end of the day, he's going to have to switch out and make a really aggressive play. So I'm actually just going to sack my Altaria because I don't want anything to get doubled into, and I want to see what he does so I can get switch priority actually. And he ends up staying in and going for Stun Spore, which wouldn't have worked anyways because I'm Limber. But now I can safely bring in my Heatran again. He's only got a couple more turns of Tailwind. I can Flash Cannon and KO this thing if I get it. If not, not a big deal. It's just going to eat up another turn. Now he can bring in either Credilli or Hoopa, and Hoopa is definitely the play. But more importantly, I win now. I just need to keep this thing in and hopefully get some damage off. That would be nice because, you know, it'll kind of counteract the Drain Punch healing. But really, I win with Choice Scarf post-combat at this point. It'll definitely OHKO Credilli, especially after rocks. I end up getting paralyzed, but not a big deal. And like I said, I bring in my Hitmonlee and can safely go for close combat here. It KOs Life Orb at like 100, so that's going to be GG. This was easily one of the most intense matches I've had. The mind games were pretty intense. The team prep was really difficult, but it was a really fun game, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening to everything that went into it, and you know, all the thought behind it. Let me know again if you like this format more than the live commentary. But anyways, 4-0, and next week's matchup is going to be against Noah, or the Hockey Gamer. You'll see him in a Pokemon Showdown Live, or you've already seen him in a Pokemon Showdown Live. So he's a good friend of mine. I'm really looking forward to that battle, and I hope you guys are too. But until then, this has been Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.